Hello and welcome. I'm Greg and you're watching Oz by Drone. Welcome everyone. This week we've got Malus Vex in the house. Hello Malus, how you doing? And we don't have his audio yet. So we've been having some fun. Just a couple of minutes ago, he was not quite here yet. So we don't have his audio yet, but he'll be here any moment now, I promise. But in the meantime, so you're watching Oz by Drone. Malus is filling in for John. Welcome, Malus, and we'll have a chat in a couple of moments. While we're getting the audio set up for him, I'll just do a quick shout out, a big shout out to Mel from 400 AGL. Thanks, Mel, for helping out with the chat and almost for jumping in. And on that particular shot for Malus Vex, can I get my producer to, on the bottom row of the audio, go down to the USB mixer, down to Malus's one, and on the, hit the, not that one, for Malus, the other one. It can never go perfectly. The one, which is his channel? Is that me or him? Then click the left-hand button on the bottom row. That should get some audio for him. Left. That one. We can hear him. Are you
Hello.
there?
There we go.
Malus. Yeah. Next time, please join maybe 10 minutes. What happened?
Sorry about that. I was up till 4 o'clock fixing quads.
As you do. As you do. So anyway, just as I was saying, a big shout out to Mel from 400 AGL. He helps out with the chat and putting messages on the screen. He may not be fully ready to do that today because when Malus wasn't here, I was calling Mel to be a fill-in co-host and he was probably distracted by that. We'll see if we get the chat up on the screen in a little while. Anyway, thank you, Mel, for your contribution. Having said all of that, and now it's time for the news. And I'm behind because of all of the fun, but here we go. And as always, I'd like to give a big shout out and thanks to Greg Hilton for his news feed that we use to select the stories. If you want to have a look at some more detail about that, go to dronebook.org if you would like to see some other stories. So in our first story today, this one is about drones being spotted near airports, and this airport in the Libyan capital of Tripoli reopened on Saturday after a brief closure because of an unidentified drone flying in the area, officials said. Residents have repeatedly spotted drones flying over Tripoli in the past few days, but the reasons for their flights is unclear. Unlike some of the Western drone scares, and I use the word drone scares deliberately, this one could very well be legitimate. But the never-ending question that I've got is, what should we do when a drone is discovered in airspace that is close to the airport? Instead of more paranoia, who's going to step up and fly a commercial airline in a safe manner, potentially remotely like a drone, and crash some drones into it so we can actually understand the real impact to general aviation? So Malus, we didn't get a chance to talk before the show, so this is the bit where we kind of, what's your thoughts on the Libyan story and what should we do in response to drones crashing? And we've just lost your audio. Can you go back to the other shot for a minute? There we go.
Can you still hear me? Yep.
Yeah,
that's sort of a hard topic. I personally think there should be a call-on team to, like, if there's, they reported a drone in the vicinity of an airport, they need to call in either a team of droning or pretty much someone like myself that can fly around and maybe spot it, because they've closed the airport down anyway. So because of the potential of a drone. So yeah, just send someone in like myself to actually maybe identify it, and if we can't spot it, reopen it.
Yeah, I mean, this was some stuff that was suggested by other people, like a drone SWAT team of people who are in the industry or recreationally in the hobby who can actually provide subject matter intelligence to the authorities. That may be a good idea. But here's the question. Let's say you spot it. Then what do? Are we going to shoot it out of the sky at an airport? What counter UAS technology are we going to use? What are the laws regarding shooting a drone out of the sky anyway? And what is the real risk to aircraft? That's why I'd really love to see someone test this. I know it's a big ask, but if we could get someone to go and get a commercial aircraft remotely piloted and then deliberately crash some drones into it, that'd be cool. I don't like what they did with that wind tunnel thing out of that University of Dayton or whatever it was called, because that's just a load of rubbish. It's a wind. Yeah, shooting a drone at an aircraft, that's never going to end well.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on from that, our second story today, AIRMAP and Honeywell have joined forces. But before I talk about that, what is AIRMAP? Some of our viewers may not know. Let's have a look.
My name is Jillian Schweitzer. I am the Director of Marketing at AIRMAP, and AIRMAP is a UTM platform that stands for UAS Traffic Management. Essentially what that means is that it's AIRMAP's mission to integrate drones safely and securely into the national airspace system all over the world.
So as you've just heard, you can think of the AIRMAP platform as an airspace management with a view of both manned and unmanned aircraft. But how do we get data about drones into their platform? Honeywell have been working on hardware that will integrate with the AIRMAP API to deliver a drone agnostic device, drone manufacturer agnostic, as a practical way to start getting aircraft on the radar screen, so to speak. Separately, AIRMAP has also teamed up with Fortin Technologies to collaborate on a solution that will use radar systems as inputs into AIRMAP, particularly in sensitive areas like airports. Now, at this point, I've got our guest sitting in the wings over there, so I'll get my producer to bring his audio up on the bottom layer. And speaking of, actually, before we do that, there's something I forgot to do at the very beginning of the show. And my producer, last week, we said we're going to get her on air. So I'm pressing the button and she has no say in this. She's now on screen. And welcome to my wife, Pia.
Hello, Huseby drone.
So we just wanted to quickly share her. She's sitting behind the scenes. Are you enjoying and you're having fun?
Not likely.
Not likely? Anyway, I'll give her some peace for the moment and we'll come back over here and we'll put Gary on screen. And hey, Gary, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here with the cold.
At the mixing board because I can't hear you, Gary. Go to the bottom row. Bottom, down. No. Look, I'll tell you what, let's do this. I'm going to do something radical. I'm going to go and make an executive decision. We're going to go and play a video, and the video we're going to play is from a later section in the show. We're going to play the, where is it? We're going to play the FPV Corner video, and Malus in a couple of minutes is going to go and talk about that video. And it's actually someone you probably know, Oni Giri. She's doing some flying there, and this video was selected by Greg Hilton. We'll get that up on the screen, and I'll fix up all of the audio in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Can't say the other word. I'd normally go with that. Oh, I so want to fly with her. I'm just going to move to Melbourne. Closest thing I had to Bando was an abandoned shed full of cow poop. Ooh. Oh, I couldn't. I'd love to do this. Just some nice big open warehouse, abandoned. Keep it in the same spot. I don't know how they do that. I can't fly line of sight if you paid me to. Slow motion replay. It can go. Oh, those props aren't cheap either. Wonder how many props he's been through. What dear the blankets.
I'm back.
Welcome back, Oz.
Yeah, we had Onigiri on the show once before, and she's certainly an awesome pilot.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of hers for a while. Even that. Just that 3D helicopter and inside the warehouse. That's crazy. Yeah, I can't fly line of sight myself at all. Like, I can do it in horizon mode, but I think everybody can.
By the way, if you've got a fan close to you, lots of popping noise.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll turn that off. On the other side of the room, just being a pain in the butt.
I just thought it was really windy in his house.
Sorry about that. But yeah, I don't know how people can keep their orientation in line of sight. It's crazy. Just, yeah, it always blows me away. Noisy chair.
Oh, let's not talk about noisy chairs. One of our regulars, Lloyd Mendenhall, is famous for his noisy chairs. But just, again, back to this clip that we're just coming up to the end of now. Absolutely gorgeous. And love that flying. It's just so controlled, and being able to fly it in amongst a lot of those obstacles there. Really, really well done. So now, without further ado, let's bring Gary on screen. Gary, how you doing?
Morning.
Yeah, so we were
good.
going...
Can you hear me this time over?
Yeah, we can hear you now. We've got everything working. So we were about to ask for your...
AIRMAP, I think.
Yeah, AIRMAP. So tell me, what's your thoughts and commentary on AIRMAP and the story we were looking at a couple of moments ago?
Well, I think it's a big, what do they call it in the IT world? A big pivot, in the VC world, a big pivot for them really to go for the remote ID part and partner with Honeywell. And let's face it, their UTM, unmanned traffic management system, that's not going so well with DJI pulling out of using them as their base mapping.
So I'm just going to jump in for...
to do something.
I'm just going to jump in for one moment, Gary. Your internet is chopping up a little bit. What I might do, we're having a lot of technical fun. It's always a perfect day when you're doing something live. If I could get you to disconnect from the rendezvous, and we'll get you to come back in, and hopefully that'll clear it up. But there's a little bit of, nastiness in there. So I'll see you in a couple of minutes. But we'll come back to that. So what Gary was essentially saying was there's a pivoting, there's a changing of what AIRMAP have been doing. They've been traditionally wanting to partner with DJI. DJI have quietly said, no, thanks, not interested. So AIRMAP have now got to have a look at their market space and say, hey, if we don't have 80% of the market, how do we do this another way? And they've partnered with Honeywell, which is a smart thing to do. And in terms of that, they've got a generic piece of hardware that can get drone data into the environment. And in addition to that, we've got a partnership with another company, which is Fortum Technologies. We spoke on that a couple of weeks ago. And, that's going to get other data in as well, where the drones are not necessarily equipped with any hardware. So, Gary, are you back?
I'm back. Can you hear me over?
It's a lot better than before. So, any other thoughts?
Well, I think the important thing is, it's quite a long delay to Africa here. And we're in the same hemisphere, so there shouldn't be really, should there? Maybe it's level and not up and downhill like it is anywhere else. Look, what we're about here really is picking a winner in both the remote ID part of things, the electronic device that maybe we'll be forced to put on the machines, and picking a winner in the pipeline or funnel to get it into air traffic services. And many companies are after this part of the pie at the moment.
Yeah. So it's a waiting game, but regardless, I think it's smart of what they're doing considering the dropping from DJI. But as you said, they're pivoting. There's not much else that they can do. But yeah, interesting times. Moving on briefly to our next
Don't
story.
forget, you can already get. Don't forget, you can already get your information into Altitude Angel, and you can even do that from our website, SUAS News, and you can do that now, and that is live in air traffic services in the UK. If you're in the UK, not down there, if it doesn't matter, but that's already live, already happening, already working. So there are solutions out there already.
Okay, Altitude Angel. I'm sure we can put a link in after the show. So useful information. Let's move on. I can see we've got a lot of things happening today. Story number 3 for the day. This is entitled Wingman, and the use of artificial intelligence by the military was predicted many years ago by Hollywood. More recently, there is a race to get products to market in this area. The US Air Force has carried out a successful test of a jet-powered drone manufactured by Kratos Unmanned Aerial Systems. This testing comes on the tail of a similar product launched by Boeing Australia about a week ago, called their Loyal Wingman. The Loyal Wingman concept is designed to integrate uncrewed aircraft into the world of crewed aircraft. The uncrewed planes have the potential to act as force multipliers for the crewed aircraft performing dangerous tasks that would be too dangerous for a manned aircraft to do. Boeing describes their product as an aircraft to protect and project air power. So I'm excited that it's something that was launched out of Australia, and definitely something that was at the Avalon Air Show. And Gary, you want to talk about this?
Well, what did China do 10 years ago? They started taking out all their old jets and making them autonomous and putting them as electronic wingmen on the side of their jets. So the problem there is when the Chinese come over the hill, the lead aircraft will have 5 or 6 aircraft with it. Now, which one are you going to shoot down first? That's what their plan is. So the Chinese have done this for years.
Yeah. But I guess then how do you actually detect which one is the drone and which one is not? And would the smart thing to do
exactly
to be to make them look the same? And
exactly. Yeah. Well, that's what the Chinese have done. They've already done it. They've already done it.
Yeah. Okay. Any comments from you, Malus?
It actually, yeah, it sounds odd to me.
It's a little bit like Terminator, Skynet. You know, we're starting to get all of these aircraft in the sky that are almost AI, and these ones are following along and peering with the aircraft. So if we take that to the next level, in terms of our own hobby, now that the military has AI in the air, what about drone pilots? Machine learning has been integrated into a new kind of drone flight controller. Researcher Will Koch wondered if you could leverage artificial intelligence to fly a drone faster and more precisely than the standard setup. Up until now, he says our primary goals were to identify if this was possible or feasible. And he said that it got off the ground and works at all in the real world is important in itself. But he's quick to add, we haven't even begun the most important aspects of making NEUROFLIGHT more powerful than PIDs. At the moment, this is not something that he would take to a race, he says, but it still needs attention and work to address particular things such as drift, which can cause a drone to veer off course. So at the end of the day, we're not at the point where we've got machines doing this stuff, but, artificial intelligence, not quite. Machine learning, definitely. How would you feel about replacing your PIDs, Malus, on the stuff that you're flying with something that would automatically learn for you?
That'd be pretty cool, actually. Yeah, honestly, PID adjustments is probably one of the things I have trouble with most in the hobby. Getting it spot on, so there's no prop wash, no any of that sort of thing. You don't want any of that, and yeah, I'm all up for it, man. That'd be cool.
So this is actually him using his controller, which has got this machine learning built into it. And as he said, it's not perfect yet. And the idea, I guess, in simple terms is if you want to fly, but you're not necessarily an aeronautical engineer understanding every parameter, let it go and work out some of that for you. Gary, your thoughts?
Oh, well, my thought is that it's already here. You need to change your flight stack to ArduPilot or ArduCopter, Malus, and it will auto-tune. It'll get airborne on a basic set of PIDs, and then you fly it around. You do each axis, and it'll tidy that up for you. So that's kind of already here, and I think quite a few platforms have that. What's kind of missing from my point of view is the ability to, if an aileron fails or something fails in flight, is to quickly change how things work. And I guess we're living right in the middle of an example of this with the 737 MAX, aren't we? That needs a bit of tuning sorted out.
I hadn't thought of it from that perspective, but that would be a really, really good example of that. But how would you actually tune it if the sensors that are giving you the input data are giving you bad data in the first place? Or should they really have had more sensors in the first place and not trusted one set of inputs?
Well, look, in our case, the one way of getting there is by having a controller like the Cube, which has 3 sets of sensors. So you could fly on just one if you wanted, but the 3 of them work together. But then that flips around to the Airbus way of doing business, which is 5 computers voting, isn't it? So it does raise all sorts of other problems. It's not as simple as look, we've magic this. You solve one thing and you probably create another problem. But yeah, Mick Malloy pilot training issue. Yes, I think it is Mick and the FAA. In the case of the 730, well, you work for Boeing, but they said the differences training wasn't needed. So there's going to be some serious meetings on the 13th floor without any biscuits, that's for sure.
Hey, I've got a question, Gary. I'm curious. At the end of the day, the manufacturer is responsible for producing technical documentation for an aircraft. Interpreting that technical documentation and turning that into actionable training that goes to pilots. Is it a manufacturer responsibility under the regulations and legislation, or is it a operator responsibility?
I don't know what the honest answer to that is. I would hope it would be a manufacturer's responsibility to make sure the training on their products that's out in the world is accurate and reflects what they want to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess logic says it would be like that, but I don't honestly know the answer.
Yeah, I haven't gone and looked it up, but I was thinking about it myself, and I actually think it's an airline responsibility. That's my opinion, because, you know, you make a car, and the local road department is going to mandate the training, not the manufacturer. So that's just my way of thinking. I could be totally wrong, but interesting. I'm sure we'll find out in the coming days and months.
Absolutely. Well, Mick says it's in the flight manual, and Mick Malloy in your comments is a Boeing man, so that'll be true.
Yeah, absolutely. Malus, thoughts?
Yeah, about the NeuroFlight control.
Yep.
I just have one more thing. There's a new flight control that's just come out recently as well, called the Brain Flight Control, or Brain X. I know it's a little off topic, but they do the same sort of PID. Like, you'll go for a fly and you enable a mode, and it'll actually give you what it thinks you should adjust the PIDs to. And yeah, so it's the same sort of flight controller, if you know what I mean.
Have you played with that, Gary? I haven't myself.
Yeah, I haven't used one yet.
I haven't played with that one. I must admit, I'm more pixel cube sort of a fellow. But I've certainly auto-tuned, and I've auto-tuned big hexacopters. What's those? I can't even remember what they're called. S800, is it? And also several aircraft, lots of aircraft. In fact, it's mostly I fly aircraft, and it's like magic. It's like practical magic, because I'm rubbish at tuning PIDs. I'm rubbish. I'm just rubbish at it.
Yeah.
So it works lovely for me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So what I might do, I'm going to skip a couple of stories just because we're a little bit behind today. So I'll move on to we'll skip the next one and go to the next one after that, the dog story. This is something out of New Zealand, and I want to quickly comment on, you know, what's happening over there. It's, you know, I don't want to give it more oxygen than it needs, but I'm thinking of the people over there that are impacted, and it's just not the kind of thing that we want to see in a Western culture. And that's all that needs to be said. So we're definitely thinking of the people over there that are impacted by that, and especially considering that the people are reported to be from Australia. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Let's not give it oxygen. We don't want to give them something to feed the fire on. Let's move on. So this story over here, and I've already gone past it on my notes, but let's play the video.
Cool.
I take a recording of my dogs barking and put it onto the drone, and then when I'm flying over I just push play and put it onto repeat. So I could have all my dogs barking, but it will be coming out of the speaker, which is quite loud.
So if you can imagine, we've got a photo of the drone as well. Go up one, I think. No, not that one. One before it. Yeah, so this is the speaker out of the Mavic Enterprise, and all he's done basically is go and get that particular aircraft and put a recording of his dogs barking and found a new way to go and herd the sheep. Creative. Don't think that DJI necessarily thought their drones would be used for herding sheep, but another good use for the drones.
Hell yeah.
I wonder if the
cool.
return on the investment is better with a dog, though.
The dog will last longer than the drone, or the drone will last longer than the dog?
Or you get more out of the dog than the drone.
Yeah, cost of the batteries versus the cost of the dog food, the fuel.
Yes. Well, there's a good thing about horses, about the energy used for horses versus making a car right back and when it all started. Horses were way more energy efficient, even with the food cost.
Yeah. Anyway, I've got 3 stories in one that I want to finish off our news segment with. This week, a headline in the Register was printed that read, "Struth, apoplectic Aussies threaten to blast noisy Google delivery video drones out of the sky." Now, I'm not suggesting that the media is going to try to incite panic. Let's just play that little fun clip there. The gun one, the one that you played by mistake. We're having fun today.
It's always fun on Osby.
That one, it is. So I got this little clip out of my stock library. Now, I'm not suggesting that the media is trying to incite panic. However, they reported that the folks who lived under Project Wing trial program held in Canberra suburb of Bonnython absolutely hate the autonomous flying machines and have set up a community action group to stop others from having to deal with the noise and disruption. While there's no doubt that the trial has had noise as a primary concern, people were afraid of cars, trains, aeroplanes, and just about any other major technical advancement in the past. Let's have a look at what it actually sounds like. This is a clip from one resident. So, Gary, I'm sorry the audio for this doesn't come through to you. It is going to our viewers. But this is the sound of a Google Project Wing drone. Now, like I said before, cars, trucks, trains, aeroplanes, and just about anything that is technical of this nature in transport is going to make noise. Now, I don't know if the particular people that are impacted by this live close to the takeoff centre where it was in Bonnython, or if there's one resident that's close to them that maybe was ordering coffee every 2 minutes. But logically speaking, it doesn't make sense to me that there would be so many noise complaints, because the drones are not going to be flying at low altitude. It's only during landing and takeoff. So, I don't know.
You go and mow your lawn. Go and mow your lawn on a Sunday morning at 4 a.m. or something, and see how many noise complaints you'll get then. I know it's not quite the same, but you'll soon get it going. So if the thing's going, I don't know if it's going 24 hours, 12 hours, 6 hours a day. I don't know what it's going, but you'd soon get there, wouldn't you? And really, isn't it a bit of a first world problem? Do we really need coffee delivered that quickly? And the other stuff that's going on. There's a lot more issues other than noise, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that we need the coffee and the burritos delivered by drone, but I think they're using that as a trial for something else bigger and greater. That's the reality. They don't really want to deliver coffee and burritos and sunblock by drone. That just happens to be what they're throwing in there for the moment.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in, is it Norway that they're going to next with it? And to see if they have the same sort of complaints there. Some Scandinavian country. They're
going back to Canberra. I thought they were going to another location in Canberra.
And they're also going to a Scandinavian country as well.
Yeah. But just moving on from that, yes, drones can cause noise, but we read this week in the Canberra Times, and I'll just do that, that the ACT government admits that it has very limited powers to regulate household delivery drone services, including the level of noise emitted during flights, a Legislative Assembly inquiry has heard. The Civil Aviation Safety Authority has also acknowledged that no single federal agency is responsible for policing drone noise, as more gaps in the regulation of the divisive innovation start to emerge. So, long story short, they can't do anything about it.
Well, a shotgun can, as has been noted. We shall see. We shall see. I personally, there is a space in this world for delivery drones, but not within towns. It's going to be, because let's face it, weather is going to be the biggest factor, not grumpy neighbours. And I can see a big autonomous van doing just the same job, but maybe that's me. Maybe I'm just a naysayer.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on from that, we've got one last little postscript. Our friends in Canberra could benefit from the final story today. The most effective way to block annoying sound is to build a barrier, the thicker the better. But instead of everyone living in sound-blocking caves in a few years as noisy drones crisscross the skies, researchers at Boston University have engineered an acoustic metamaterial that is designed to silence annoying sounds at their source without blocking the movement of air. And that's a really important one. Air movement is something that we need for drones, obviously, to fly. Now, what you're seeing on the screen at the moment, this is a noise source, an annoying tone generator, but there's also air being pushed through there independent of that. And at the end of this, where they had that material that was dampening it. As soon as they removed that, you can hear the audio volume increased. Now, obviously, we're not going to necessarily have drones with tubes on every single propeller. Yes, we can have ducted fans and all of that kind of stuff, but I think it's a start to think that we can look at how we can limit noise in the future.
I actually that's my main complaint when I'm flying my drone. Yeah, I actually had an old gentleman come up to me once and proceed to have a big go at me about how noisy my drone was, and he's sick of hearing it, and yeah.
Yeah. It's something that we live with, and there's not much that we can do about it. But that's the end of the news for today. And let me now press that button so that we can have our guest finally officially come onto the screen. Welcome, Gary Mortimer.
Thank you very much indeed, and good morning to everybody in the chat as well.
And I love your good morning, because it sounds exactly what I normally hear on the beginning of your live streams on a regular basis. You've got those dulcet tones there. And Gary apologises for his cold that he's got today. But
yes.
Yeah. So a couple of quick things just at the start. Gary, you're based in South Africa?
Yes, that's right. Just inland from Durban, at the foot of the Drakensberg Mountains.
Okay. And how long have you lived in South Africa? What made you want to live there?
I've lived here about 30 years now, and work brought me here. Work brought me to Johannesburg and then to the Eastern Transvaal, as it used to be called, on the edge of the Kruger Park. I used to be a hot air balloon driver, so I used to take people over animals and things like that. And that's the rest is history, as they say. Yeah.
Actually, let me briefly share a Kruger National Park related story. Since we're talking to you today, I remember as youngsters, myself and my sister, we were going to and from Kruger National Park, and on one of the flights on this little puddle jumper, I don't know what aircraft it was, I was too young. We were in the seats immediately next to the door, the emergency exit row seats. And on this particular flight, they couldn't shut the door all the way, but they still flew and they still took off. And here was me and my sister sitting right next to the door with the wind coming in. Obviously not a pressurized cabin, but still a fond memory of South Africa years ago. Anyway, I digress. It's crazy. I digress. But Gary, we've got you here today, Gary. You do a regular stream called Drone and Sundry, where you get yourself and a bunch of drone type people together and you talk about what's happening in the industry, and you're also involved in SUAS news. Tell our viewers a little bit about either or both of those briefly.
Sure. Well, SUAS News was something I started 11 years ago now, by accident, really. So I am a pilot by trade, or by profession, I suppose, if you can call it a profession. But I started it by accident 11 years ago, actually about 12 or 13 years ago. There wasn't any drone news sources that weren't behind some sort of a paywall. And I started just emailing things to my friends and saying, hey, have you seen this? Hey, have you seen that? And then they say, oh, why don't you add someone? Can you add my mate this other mate, the other mate? Oh, all right. And it got a bit too much. So I thought, oh, well, let's just whack these onto a web page. And first of all, it was, what was it? It was on a Ning page, like DIY drones. And then I moved from that to the current WordPress site it is in 2008 and gave it a name, and that's that. And just because we were kind of first, at first it was free. It just meant that we've made a lot of friends in the industry that have that tell us secrets, which is good. Okay. So it's mostly press releases, but the odd secret hidden in there, which is great. Yeah. And then the YouTube channel, well, you have to have a YouTube channel, don't you? Apparently, and I quite enjoy it now. I enjoy our Tuesday chats, and I very much enjoy your input as well. So that's why I'm here at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, thank you definitely for being here at this time. It is stupid o'clock for you, and the time in South Africa, 2:30 in the morning. Thank you. Just to briefly touch on that, so the stories that I'd chatted about recently on your show were the drones being shot out of the sky. Just to share with people, that's still unresolved. I know that CASA has formally made a statement saying that it is illegal and that they can and will prosecute people with penalties up to 2 years imprisonment. But the existing case where someone's in custody and we know who done it, there's only local charges against him. I hope that regulators around the world think about this. It's a bad precedent to set where you don't prosecute someone under aviation legislation for shooting an aircraft out of the sky.
Well, they're afraid to use the term aircraft, aren't they? That seems to be, they don't want to, they're quick to use it if they want to slap you on the wrist, but I don't think they want to get something in court where it's definitely defined as an aircraft.
Maybe not in court.
Very well. I'll blame it on the cold.
Yeah, maybe not in court, but I did actually get confirmation from CASA. Yes, a drone is an aircraft. So we've had that officially from them. Anyway, moving on from that, the thing I wanted to get you on to talk about today is about software in the loop. It's something that I've watched on your streams from time to time, and I've just picked one of many videos at random. Let's put that up in the background, and then we'll have a quick chat about it.
So my local manned gliding club at Howick down the road has an 80-kilometre triangle to fly. So here we are, winch launching to above outsoar cutoff, and I'm seeing what will happen. I have not tuned this glider at all. So this is stock PIDs, and I've done nothing, absolutely nothing about the soaring parameters. You've got to work out the coefficients and all that. There is a little spreadsheet kicking about for doing that. And you've got to do a few more things. You can see, look, I'm on the stall here, so I'm going to have to alter the speeds.
So we'll just cut the audio and leave that up for a little while. So, Gary, tell our viewers, because this is something, our traditional audience is either photography, DJI-based pilots, or racing, or other types of quad flying. What's going on here? What's this that you're doing?
Well, I'm actually leveraging the work of, and you've got one of the guys in your comments here, Mick Malloy. He's been around, and I've known of Mick for many years, but he's one of the guys that's at a fantastic, the world's best drone competition is the Outback Challenge, and that's there in Merrill, Australia. And that's from the work that the Argipilot guys do. They needed a way of simulating what their aircraft might do, and also simulating what the firmware is going to do when there's big changes. And that's exactly what they do. They just run it through simulations thousands of times a second, actually, is what they've got machines doing, to make sure whenever they release any firmware, it's not going to cause, or it's not going to blow up too easily and cause too many problems. What I use it for is I've got 4 sons, and actually going out and flying is getting harder and harder and harder now. So I cheat, and I also use it by being able to sit here, tune an aircraft in X-plane, and well, it is the names on the tin, really, simulate what I'm going to do, and then think about how it's going to work. And iron out any problems before I get to the field. I also use it to get my head back into for changing modes and things like that. That's not a very good explanation. Help me. What do you want to know?
So let's go and chat about this a bit more, right? So you've got Argipilot. Are you using it for some autopilot capabilities into X-plane?
Yes.
You're pre-programming.
You've got You've got a virtual autopilot, really, which is running the latest firmware. So that's set there. You set that up as if you were setting up a real aircraft, and X-plane is being that aircraft. It's piped to X-plane, and X-plane has an advantage of, for me anyway, of being able to put weather into it and on top of it, so your aircraft that you set up will react to that weather. In this case, you've picked the thermally, and the autonomous. So that the aircraft in this is looking for thermals, and if it finds one, it'll turn into it and hook into it and spiral up and away. I can't see which bit of video you've got there, but if you've seen any bits with any curly bits, that's it, hooking into a thermal and then moving off downwind. I've set it up so it gets to a certain height, and then it'll leave the thermal and head on and start seeking another one. And it can go around a route then doing that. I've actually used that in real life. What I've used that for, I got into this game really for wildlife use cases. We track animals, various from fish all the way up to rhino, the headline stuff. But we have a repeater that we put in the air, and if it hears any of the collars, it pulls the data from the collars, and then when I land, then we just pull the data off that. So you need to loiter. A long way of saying you need to loiter in an area for a long time, because if something's behind a tree or a rock, you have to be able to see it radio wise, and so that's what I've done with this. I've flown in an area and extended my flight time by soaring autonomously, and it's been very, very successful. So I guess, using simulation, I get my head.
So I guess for a lot of our viewers, right? So fixed wing thinking as opposed to quad thinking, you're using those thermals, you're just going and doing your stuff. Someone said it's a little bit like literally planning a flight. I'd just say, correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, yes and no, but it gets halfway through and it finds, there's a thermal here, so I can go and use that to increase altitude. But other than that, it's got parameters for the flight, but it'll use the physical characteristics to dynamically alter that as it goes. Is that right?
Yeah. So all it does, it's quite simple. It's just am I above a soaring altitude minimum? So if you had an aircraft, if it was a motor glider, so in that example, it's not a motor glider. If it was a motor glider, you'd set, 100 meters as the minimum altitude. So if it gets to that, then drive yourself up to an altitude that the engine will stop. So give yourself enough height to find another thermal, and then continue on your route, your pre-flight, as you say, your leachy flight. And if you find a thermal, then thermal and core into it until a certain height, and you also set that. So what you've just got to be a bit careful with that is, if you set that too high and it's windy aloft, the thing will go a long way off track. I may or may not have heard of somebody that has been 10 kilometers downwind in a thermal. Maybe or maybe not. So yeah, they can go quite far. So that's just what you've got to be a little bit careful of. And you've got to, the aircraft's got to be quite nicely set up. In the example you showed, it's not. I just chucked it in and had a go at the Howick 80 kilometer circuit, and I tune it a little bit as we go. But you can auto tune the aircraft in software in the loop. So if you design an aircraft, you can make a version of it in X-Plane, and then you can auto-tune it in X-Plane. And so you can arrive with your demonstration real-life model with a fairly good idea of what the PIDs will be. Obviously, they're going to change. Things are going to be different. But you'll be able a good start anyway.
Yeah. I've got one more quick question. The whole X-Plane and using ArduPilot together. The configuration to make them talk to each other, is it virtual configuration within the machine? Are they both sitting on the same device, or is ArduPilot?
You can do it both ways. You could have it set. You could have the mission planner running on a laptop and pipe it through, or you could have it on the same machine. I happen to have it on the same machine, and it's silly easy to connect them. And a lot of and the reason to use X-Plane, another reason to use X-Plane is what NASA and a lot of the grown-ups use as well. A lot of the VTOLs and tail sitters that are coming along, they're using, I'm going to forget now, RealFlight, I think it's called, simply because you can make the actual models of the aircraft a lot easier in RealFlight. And so for the tail sitters, again, tail sitters and all the fancy VTOLs that are coming out, you can be spending a lot of money in crashes if you're not careful. So rather simulate it, get it all working quickly, or getting it all working close to what you think you're going to need, and then try it in the real world. It's just like the grown-ups do, really. But again, they use the main thing the developers use simulation for is to run the new firmware through the simulation thousands of times and see what breaks before it gets released into the wild.
Yeah. I've seen you looking at some commercial applications of different types of aircraft and whatnot, and certainly using a lot of that to go and do the what ifs. Great way of thinking about it.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest simulations I ran was having the delivery drones in Lesotho, and trying to run them and seeing how you could, or how many aircraft would it take and how would it get there? You'd start with an airliner and then go down to, aircraft size would go down. I'm a great believer in a thing called Alias, which I cannot remember I can't remember what it stands for. But basically, a really clever company, Aurora Flight Sciences, now owned by Boeing, have made a robot that sits in the co-pilot seat, and they use cameras to film the man driving. And I'm going to have to give it up in a second. They use cameras to film the man driving, and within a month, the thing uses all the machine learning and all the AI that we're talking about to fly the aeroplane, and it can fly the aeroplane. So they can put it in the co-pilot seat of any aeroplane or helicopter, and it's rated to fly a Caravan and an S-76 helicopter at the moment. So why not use a load of, and then you don't need to worry about that emergency door either, because it falls out. But you could use you could repurpose lots of light aircraft and helicopters to be your delivery drone platform. So that's what I did. I've ranted on too long, but there's lots of there's lots of interesting stuff out in the world, and you've got to think about it a little bit before they try it. And people just say, "Well, do this." It's like, you haven't thought about it.
I definitely want to get into some of the kind of stuff that we've spoken about today. I've got one last thought related to our news story, the first one. What do you do when you get a drone at an airport? And I asked the question, do you get one up in the sky that's being remotely piloted, an aircraft, a commercial general aviation aircraft, and do you go and start smashing drones in it to find out what is the real risk? Because we don't know what the risk is until it actually happens, and then it's a bit late.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is there's hardly any risk, isn't there? I think we do know. I think if somebody's intent on causing mischief, they're going to cause mischief, and they'll get it done, and you're not going to be able to mitigate against that too much. It's two sorts of things, isn't it? If it's somebody bumbling through the airspace, then you can probably find them and have a policing action where you can, if it's a popular three-lettered manufacturer, it's well known that if you're online, then they know where you're flying, and that's exactly how AIRMAP and their thing in Manchester detected lots of them flying around the airport before they even, or switching on their gear on the ground. They were detected. So before flight even.
I'll tell you the reason why I'd love to see trials in real world is, are there things that you could change in the design of aircraft, the commercial general aviation, that would harden them and reduce the risk? Is that something that we could learn from doing these kind of experiments, and would it be worthwhile doing it? That's kind of where I'm going.
Haven't they done that with bird strike stuff?
Yeah, but birds are not drones and drones are not birds. And when you've got universities shooting drones at aircraft rather than actually doing something that would be a real life scenario, then you're going to get the kind of rubbish that comes out of their findings,
I think we're getting to peak rubbish at the moment. I think that's all going to die down now. Well, it's peak rubbish. It's being shown. The thing is, as more people are getting the benefit out of using their drones commercially in the whatever industry it is, as it's becoming a more daily object, like a hammer in the toolbox, perhaps the wrong thing to use. As that's happening and people are more aware of it, there'll be less fear and frightfulness, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, Gary, look, we've rambled on a lot. It's been really good talking to you. I encourage everyone watching today, go and check out Gary's channel. The link is in the description. We've also got Nightbot going and broadcasting the link in the chat every so often. So encourage you to watch that. When's your show, Gary?
2100 GMT every Tuesday, which will be sometime on a Wednesday for you.
Absolutely. Okay, look, thank you very much again, and it was good having you. By all means, stick around in the chat or go to sleep, depending on how much sleep you need before whatever it is you've got tomorrow. You've got the energy drink.
All right, man. Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and thanks very much to all your viewers. Have a lovely week. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Malus, back to you.
I just chucked you a sub too, Gary. I thought I'd let you know.
Yeah.
Good man. Good man.
Okay. So moving on from that now, we have our mailbag, and I've had a clip come in from one of our viewers this week. This clip comes from Curtis Falls, and it's been edited with some nice piano music. This one, he took the viewer in question is Matt North. He took the Spark to Curtis Falls in Queensland, and he says, what an awesome spot to visit. And if you're ever in the area, go and check it out. He had some issues flying in ADI mode due to the rainforest canopy, but he did the best that he could. ADI mode plus water, what could go wrong? So please enjoy. But here's what I'm going to say. I love the absolute beautiful clarity from a Spark and the perspective that you're seeing in some of this stuff. He's definitely flying very close to a lot of the things that are in the rainforest, and some beautiful editing and music there as well.
I love it. That looks awesome. Good job, mate.
Definitely some beautiful filming, and Matt's channel, there's a link in the description, so I definitely encourage you to go and check that out as well. But I'm just amazed that all of this is coming from the little Spark.
They got a good camera in them. That looks better than my GoPro Session 5s.
Yeah.
I'd love to fly that. Beautiful area.
Certainly a lot of skill in flying in that area with all of the obstacles, doing some of the reverse flying there.
Yeah, they don't have sensors on the Spark, do they?
Well, they got some, but not too many.
Yeah, I don't think there's any in reverse.
No.
So yeah, good job, Matt.
Just a quick side topic, the music that Matt originally provided was not the music you hear on here. He did a re-edit with some music from something that I'm licensed for. So, but it turned out really well when you put it together.
Close enough there.
Beautiful. So thanks again to Matt North. And 400 AGL is just confirming only forward sensors on the Spark. So yeah. Just a quick reminder, if you would like me to feature one of your videos, please do write in. Our email address is coming up on the screen just now. And if you would like to do a couple of other things while we're here, I'll do our quick community service announcements while we're showing that. There's our social media links, AusByDrone at YouTube, Twitter and Facebook. Feel free to go and share that you're watching the show today. It'll help us. If there's anything you would like to send physically, our postal address is 5/127 Princess Highway, Sylvania. And I've got one last brief announcement, which is a reminder about Drone Camp for any Aussies that are watching today. Drone Camp is being put on by John Morrison. I'll be participating in that as well. If you've got youngsters that would like to learn how to fly, not just by picking up a controller and trying it, but learning a lot more about the art of flying and so on, get them registered for that. Should be a good little way to learn how to fly. So we've got through our announcements and we've had a look at that. That was beautiful from Matt. We've got our last segment of the day, which is again some more video footage. It's time for, and everyone loves this segment. It's off to see the Wizard of Oz as we explore Australia, having a look at some of the beautiful landscapes in our country. Let's play the clip.
Always love Explore Australia.
Yeah. As always, thank you to Greg Hilton who compiles this. Our first clip today is from Daphne Scarlett. Flying by the Seashore is the title of the video, filmed with a Mavic 2 Pro.
That's some lovely footage. I want to go and sit down on the beach. It's been years since I've been to a beach.
Well, I can't help it if you live in the middle of the country. You got a dam, haven't you, or something nearby?
Yeah, we got Barrendong Dam. I suppose it's a small dam.
Again, just a reminder, if you'd like to have some of your video featured on the show, send it in to the email address we shared before. If you've got any news items you'd like to share with us, go to Dronebook, or you could even send it in to Gary through SUAS News. I'm sure he'd like to see any hot tips and inside industry information.
Absolutely. I'm still here. I started SUAS News to help the small company, so I'm here for you.
Yeah, he's in trim, and this is called Din Din Barren Falls near Kurunda. Drone footage from the base of Din Din in, they're testing me with these words, Jabagai country, more commonly known as Barren Falls near Kurunda in far north Queensland, Australia. Shot on a Phantom 4 in February this year.
Oh, they're making me jealous. And yeah, lovely sceneries. Beautiful.
So the whole purpose of this segment is showing off what drones can do and also showing off parts of Australia. So I hope the non-Aussies here are feeling jealous and want to come. Our third clip, the High Life Australia Mavic 2 Zoom, was used to shoot this at Phillip Island, Australia, a weekend away in Phillip Island. As I said, using a Mavic 2 Zoom was the hardware he used to film this.
I would love to dive those waterfalls. Not me with my
yes.
Yeah. That is absolutely beautiful.
I've got some clips that I shot of at a waterfall in the Philippines. I keep remembering them and forgetting to go and edit them together. I will do that. On AusByDrone. Next week, come back to that. Let's just quickly up very soon. So our guest, Tom Morrison, who's actually photography, about he's only recently credited in that role. Aussie trucker On the 6th of April, we got something special where we're going to do a joint show together with Kelly from Ready Set Drone. Because of the time zone changes, that particular week we'll be on at exactly the same time. So I'll be on his show, he'll be on my show. We're going to do that together. And then we've got 3 weeks of something unusual. I'm going to be traveling to Korea myself. So the first week in 13th of April, we'll be at Sydney Airport, and then live from Korea doing something drone related. I just don't know what yet.
That's awesome.
Moving on, we've got Rafael Lavino Voil de Drone. I can't say that, it's all in French, but the translation says, I made some pictures of a drone from Brighton Beach here in Melbourne. Some colourful houses, and I wanted to do more with his DSLR camera, but he was so excited about using the drone that he forgot that he had a DSLR. So this was a tourist from France visiting in Australia. I'm guessing France, but... And then our next one, Roy L. Lincoln. This was from Pertnam, Australia, Fort Nepean. I don't actually know where that location is, and I didn't get a chance to look it up before the show today. I haven't heard of that location.
Neither have I. It's lovely though. Oh, both sides. Hell yeah.
Don't know where that is.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up later.
Why
I was just
haven't
trying to
heard
Google it. I was just trying to Google it, but I couldn't find anything there. There's people with that in their name. And we've got one more clip coming up in a couple of minutes, or a couple of moments, not minutes, from Chris Pixels. And by the way, as these clips play, Greg Hilton, the person who edits this together, former ABC cameraman, he puts a lot of work into it. And you can think of them increasing in, what's the right way to say it? The best ones he saves for last. So you're about to watch the best of the week's videos from Australia by drone. This one from Chris Pixels coming up in a moment from Gold Coast hinterland. He was hiking in the Gold Coast hinterland, and we'll see in a couple of moments the results of his work. How much photography drone work do you do yourself, Gary?
Trying to mute myself. Yeah, I'm amusing myself at last. Not a lot. I'm useless. I'm absolutely useless. I don't have the eye for it.
Yeah.
I really don't. It's a skill.
We've got 3 different worlds. We've got the photography guys, we've got the racing and acro guys, and we've got the fixed wing kind of guys, and you're in that category. Here's our last one that I mentioned.
Does taking thousands and thousands of shots for making maps count?
On autopilot?
Yeah, on autopilot.
No, it doesn't count. By the way, we had a question in the chat room a short while ago for yourself. Do you still do much balloon flying?
Not as much as I should. Very occasionally now. As my boys get older, I'll be taking the younger ones flying, but not as much as I used to.
Yeah. And Drone Strike said, don't forget the ag guys, which is another type of flying again, the agricultural guys, as another category. By the way, I'll quickly comment about our internet for the day. Telstra finally got back to me this week and said, yes, they can see from their data that their signal to noise ratio on the upstream bandwidth, there's a problem, and it was happening multiple times over a few days. So they're investigating further. Finally, hopefully after their investigation, we might get rid of some of that buffering that we see from time to time. But thanks for sticking with us. Malus, any last words or thoughts or comments? What are you flying at the moment?
At the moment, I'm still flying a Rooster, Armiton Rooster, top drone. I've got putting together a basher or Franken build. It's about 4 or 5 different bits of drones all put together. Yeah, it actually flies really well.
A Franken build.
Yeah, different arms. Or the main definition of Franken build is having different arms to the actual frame, and all different ESCs and all different motors, and yeah, it works.
Okay.
Aren't flight controllers magical nowadays?
Yeah. And Gary, any last words or comments? Thanks for staying for the last bit of the show.
No, thank you very much for having me. I look forward to coming back again in the future sometime if you have me. And we'll just be safe out there, everybody, really, and take care.
Okay. So thanks, everyone, for joining. Thanks for watching. Please do send us some videos via the upload link that I shared before. Please do share via your various social platforms that you've been watching our show today. It does help us to get some new people watching the channel. And other than that, I'll see you next time. Bye for now.